I never liked quiet mornings, though they always looked perfect on the outside. Sunlight spilled lazily through the blinds, casting patterns on the kitchen tiles. I stood there with a mug of coffee, staring out at the garden, wondering why, after 38 years of marriage, something felt off. Mark was supposed to be upstairs reading the newspaper, but I had not heard a page turn. Normally, I would ignore the tiny pangs of worry. I was not the kind to overthink. But that day, a tiny instinct prickled at me like a whispered warning. He finally appeared in the doorway, brushing lint from his shirt. "Morning, Diane," he said. His smile was too practiced, too smooth. And maybe it was just me, but his eyes looked tired, like they were carrying secrets heavier than our shared life. I shrugged off the feeling, blaming it on age, the early hour, or maybe my imagination. But deep down, I knew the quiet held something more. Later that morning, I found it. I had been looking for a pen in Mark's study when a folder caught my eye, peeking from under a pile of bills. The kind of folder he always claimed held boring insurance stuff. But the way it called out to me felt wrong, urgent. Inside, I found emails, hundreds of them, conversations with a woman I had never met, financial transfers I did not authorize, lies within lies. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the digital proof of a life I had never known existed. I backed away slowly, the folder slipping from my fingers to the floor with a soft thud. My heart hammered. For a moment, I felt dizzy, as if the world had tilted on its axis. He was not just hiding things, he was betraying me. For days, I watched him, pretended to sip my coffee while checking receipts, noting his phone calls, listening behind doors. Every laugh he shared with me felt like an echo of something insincere. Every glance, every soft touch had hidden weight. I wanted to explode, to shout, to break everything around me. But I was careful. I had learned over the decades that rage could destroy without solving anything. So I held my secret like a coiled spring, waiting. I also noticed the small things he overlooked, the way he sometimes left the house at odd hours, the quick glances at emails before shutting the laptop, the new credit cards in his wallet. I realized then that I was not just a wife in this story. I was a detective, a silent observer gathering proof. The confrontation did not happen in a dramatic shouting match. That came later. The first was quiet, surgical. "Mark," I said one evening, my voice calm but steady. "We need to talk." He froze mid-step, his eyes flicking toward me with surprise, then fear. "About what?" I did not answer. I simply placed the folder on the table. The weight of those emails, those transfers, those lies, suddenly it all had a body, a presence in the room. He swallowed hard. "Diane, I interrupted. "Don't. I have read everything. I know everything." The room went silent, except for the ticking of the old clock. For a long moment, we simply stared at each other, decades of shared history colliding with the betrayal I now held in my hands. The next few days were a mix of chaos and clarity. Mark tried to apologize, then tried to explain. The woman, I discovered, had been a coworker. They had started innocently, he said, just talking over emails. But the financial part, that was to help her, he claimed. Every excuse felt thinner than paper. I did not yell. I did not cry immediately. Instead, I documented everything, printing emails, making notes, creating a timeline. I needed the truth outside of my memory, outside of his lies. When my daughter Emily visited, I shared just enough to warn her. "Your father is not the man we thought he was," I said gently. She looked stunned, a mixture of disbelief and grief in her eyes, but she trusted me, as I had always trusted her. I consulted a lawyer discreetly, the kind who specialized in family law and financial fraud. Every conversation I had added a layer of control back to my life. For years, I had felt powerless. Now I was armed with evidence, knowledge, and a plan. Mark grew nervous, then defensive. His casual lies became frantic attempts to cover tracks. But every document, every email, Every transfer I had printed and logged became a fortress of truth. I could not be touched. By the time I was ready to confront him legally, I was no longer a frightened wife. I was a woman who had survived decades, who understood patience, strategy, and resilience. The final confrontation came in the form of a mediated meeting with lawyers present and eventually court documents that forced Mark to acknowledge the truth. He tried to apologize, begged for forgiveness, but I remained calm. My voice was steady when I spoke in court, recounting the betrayal, the hidden life, the financial manipulations. The judge listened, the lawyers documented, and for the first time in decades, I felt the scales of justice tipping toward me. My children were proud. Friends were shocked. But I did not care about their opinions. I cared about my life reclaimed and unbroken. In the month that followed, I rebuilt what had been broken, not just financially, but emotionally. I returned to old hobbies, reconnected with friends I had ignored for years, and discovered a resilience I had not known I possessed. Mark, he left quietly, taking nothing but the weight of his guilt. I did not celebrate his downfall. I simply celebrated my own freedom. I sometimes walk through the house once filled with tension and hidden lies and smile. Every corner now speaks of truth, courage, and a woman who refused to be silenced. I often think about other women, younger and older, trapped in quiet betrayals. I wish I could tell them, you have the power. You have the right to know, to act, to reclaim your life. Age does not mean submission. Age means wisdom. It was not easy, and it is not easy to face the truth. But standing here now, decades into my life, I know something essential. The past does not define us. Our choices, our courage, our actions do. And I chose to live openly, fiercely, and without regret.